The diplomat's arrival. The void of space stretched endlessly around the small Earth vessel as it approached the massive Zithian warship. The sleek, silver diplomatic shuttle looked like a minnow next to a shark. The Zithian flagship, Eternal Dominion, spanned nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern, its obsidian surface adorned with pulsing blue energy conduits that resembled veins on a predator. Captain Diana Volkov stood at the viewscreen, her posture relaxed but alert. At 53, Diana was considered the finest diplomat in the United Earth Alliance, with 30 successful peace treaties under her belt. Her silver-streaked black hair was pulled back in a practical braid, and her storm-gray eyes studied the approaching warship with clinical interest. "Captain, they're hailing us," said Lieutenant Chen, the communications officer. "They're instructing us to prepare for docking procedure." Diana nodded, acknowledged their instructions. Standard diplomatic protocols. "Ma'am," Chen hesitated, "our intelligence suggests the Zithians may not honor diplomatic immunity. The Defense Council strongly advised against this mission." "The Defense Council isn't here, Lieutenant," Diana replied with a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. "But we are. And sometimes the most dangerous place is exactly where you need to be." Diana returned to her quarters to prepare. On a small table sat an unusual pendant, a simple circular amulet made of dark wood, carved with symbols that predated modern language. She picked it up, feeling its familiar weight in her palm. "One more time, old friend," she whispered before placing it around her neck and tucking it beneath her formal diplomatic uniform. The shuttle docked with precision inside the cavernous bay of the Zithian flagship. Diana emerged alone, as she had insisted, despite protocol requiring a security detail. The docking bay was filled with Zithian warriors, tall, reptilian beings with iridescent scales and 4 arms, each bearing ceremonial but lethal-looking weapons. Commander Vexter, the ship's second-in-command, stepped forward. Standing 2 meters tall, his upper body covered in ceremonial armor that accentuated his imposing physique, he looked down at Diana, with 6 golden eyes arranged in a hexagonal pattern. "Human diplomat," he said, his translator converting the series of clicks and hisses into English. "You will surrender all weapons and communication devices before proceeding." Diana spread her arms. "I carry no weapons, Commander. A true diplomat's only tools are words." Vexter gestured to a scanning arch. "Our Emperor does not trust words, particularly from species as deceptive as humans." Diana walked through the scanner without hesitation. It hummed and flashed, and a Zithian technician hissed in surprise. "She carries a wooden artifact," the technician reported. "Unknown composition, but organic. No detectable technology." Vexter extended one of his lower arms. "Remove it." "This is a ceremonial item," Diana explained calmly. "A symbol of my office and heritage, the Galactic Accord of Diplomatic Relations, which your empire signed 50 years ago, allows diplomats to retain cultural artifacts." The commander's eyes narrowed, but he nodded curtly. "Follow me. Emperor Kravaxol does not appreciate being kept waiting." As they moved through the massive ship, Diana observed everything: the number of troops, the layout of corridors, the security protocols at each checkpoint. Her diplomatic training had taught her to notice details. Her other training had taught her how to use them. The throne room of Emperor Kravaxol was designed to intimidate, stretching 100 meters from entrance to throne. The obsidian floor was inlaid with luminescent blue patterns that pulsed like heartbeats. The walls displayed trophies from conquered worlds, artifacts, weapons, and what appeared to be preserved remains of other species' representatives. At the far end, Emperor Kravaxol reclined on a floating throne of dark metal. Unlike his subjects, the emperor had 6 arms, a sign of his royal lineage. His scales were deep crimson, and a crown of energy hovered above his elongated head. "So," the emperor's voice boomed across the chamber, "Earth sends a single aging female to negotiate the terms of their surrender. How efficient." Diana stopped at the exact distance prescribed by interstellar diplomatic protocol. close enough to show respect, far enough to demonstrate independence. Emperor Kravik Sol, I bring greetings from the United Earth Alliance. I am Captain Diana Volkov, Chief Diplomatic Envoy. I'm not here to discuss surrender, but rather to find common ground for coexistence. A rumbling sound filled the chamber, which Diana recognized as Zithian laughter. Coexistence. The Emperor leaned forward. Your outer colonies have already fallen. Your fleets are scattered. Your technology is primitive compared to ours. What could you possibly offer that would make us consider coexistence? Diana maintained perfect composure. Knowledge. Understanding. Trade opportunities that benefit both our civilizations. And most importantly, the chance to avoid a conflict that would be costly for both sides. Costly. The Emperor's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. Your species cannot harm us. Your weapons are ineffective against our shields. Your planets are ripe for harvesting. The only cost would be the fuel expended to reach your worlds. Appearances can be deceiving, Your Majesty, Diana said softly. Humanity has survived countless threats, both from our own nature and from beyond our world. We adapt. We overcome. We endure. The Emperor waved a dismissive hand. Poetry will not save your species, diplomat. We have studied humans extensively. You are physically weak, emotionally unstable, and technologically stagnant. Your only remarkable trait is your ability to reproduce rapidly, a trait we will eliminate. Diana's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. A momentary flash that Commander Vextar, watching from the side, found unsettling. Before we continue this discussion, Diana said, I notice your scientists are interested in my pendant. Perhaps you'd like to examine it more closely. It's quite old, an artifact from Earth's ancient past. The Emperor gestured impatiently, and a guard approached Diana. She removed the pendant and handed it to him. The guard delivered it to the Emperor, who held it up with two of his smaller arms. This, he scoffed, a piece of dead plant matter. This is what you consider valuable. It tells a story, Diana replied. From my ancestral homeland. About a being of great power who lived in a house that walked on chicken legs. Those who showed respect prospered. Those who didn't, she paused. Well, they'd rarely lived to tell their tales. Superstitious nonsense, the Emperor said, but study the pendant more closely. What do you call this mythical being? Baba Yaga, Diana answered, her accent suddenly thickening. Neither good nor evil, but certainly not one to be crossed. With a dismissive gesture, the Emperor tossed the pendant to a nearby attendant. Secure this primitive trinket. It may have some anthropological value. Diana's eyes followed the pendant, then returned to the Emperor. You asked what Earth could offer you. Let me be clear. We offer peace. If you reject it, her voice lowered slightly, you will discover why so many who sought to conquer Earth have failed. The Emperor rose from his throne, his full height nearly 3 meters tall. Your diplomatic immunity ends now, Captain Volkov. You will be escorted to a holding cell while we finalize our invasion plans. Your presence here has confirmed what we suspected. Earth is defenseless, its representatives reduced to telling fairy tales and making empty threats. Diana didn't resist as guards moved to flank her. Emperor Kravik Sol, I urge you to reconsider. Return my pendant, and let us discuss this reasonably. The time for discussion has ended, the Emperor replied. Commander Vextar, take this human to the detention level. We will extract what information we can before the invasion begins. As Diana was led away, she glanced back at the Emperor. You should have researched our fairy tales more carefully, Your Majesty. They often contain important warnings. The doors to the throne room closed behind her with an ominous thud, leaving the Emperor to contemplate his next move, unaware that the real threat wasn't to Earth, but to his entire empire. The hidden power. Diana's cell was austere but functional, a simple chamber with a bed platform, sanitation unit, and force field barrier instead of bars. Commander Vextar personally escorted her, dismissing the regular guards once she was secured. "I don't understand you, human," he said after the others had left. "You must know your position is hopeless. Yet you show no fear." Diana sat calmly on the edge of the bed platform. "Fear is a choice, Commander, like aggression, like peace." "Your philosophy won't save your world," Vextar replied. "The invasion fleet is already assembling. Within a standard week, Earth's defenses will be overwhelmed." "Tell me, Commander," Diana said, changing the subject, "in your studies of human culture, did you ever encounter our concept of hubris? Our translation matrices have defined it as excessive pride or self-confidence," he answered. "A common trait among species facing extinction." Diana smiled slightly. "Interesting interpretation. We see it as a fatal flaw that precedes a fall. The Emperor taking my pendant. Do you think that was wise?" Vextar's upper shoulders twitched in what might have been a shrug. "It's a worthless trinket." "Is it?" Diana stood and approached the force field, stopping just short of its crackling energy. "Your sensors detected no technology, no weapons. But did your Emperor ask himself why a diplomat would bring such an item to a crucial negotiation?" For the first time, uncertainty flickered across the commander's features. "What are you suggesting?" "Nothing at all," Diana replied, stepping back. "Merely an observation that in diplomacy, as in war, things are not always as they appear." Vextar left without another word, his stride betraying his discomfort. In the Emperor's private laboratory, 3 scientists carefully examined Diana's pendant. Their instruments scanned for radiation, energy signatures, hidden compartments, finding nothing but dense, ancient wood and intricate carvings. "Worthless," the lead scientist reported to Emperor Kravik. "No technological components, no hidden transmitters, no weapon systems, just wood, approximately 300 Earth years old." The Emperor took the pendant, turning it in his multiple hands. The human seemed unusually concerned with this object. "Continue testing. We have performed every analysis, Your Majesty. It is simply wood." "Then destroy it," the Emperor ordered. "If it holds significance to humans, its destruction will symbolize their fate." The scientist placed the pendant in a molecular disruptor, a device designed to break matter down to its component atoms. He activated the process, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then the laboratory lights flickered. The pendant began to glow with an inner light, first soft, then blindingly bright. The disruptor shut down automatically. Safety protocols engaging this power surged throughout the ship. Emergency alarms began to wail. "What is happening?" the Emperor demanded. "Unknown, Your Majesty," the scientist replied, his scales paling with fear. "The object is somehow drawing power from our systems." Throughout the massive warship, lights dimmed, security systems faltered, and confusion spread among the crew. In Diana's cell, the force field sputtered and died. She stood calmly, brushing non-existent dust from her uniform. "Right on time," she murmured. The pendant in the laboratory was now hovering above the disruptor, spinning slowly, its glow intensifying with each rotation. Suddenly, it vanished in a flash of light. In Diana's cell, the pendant materialized before her. She reached out, taking it in her hand with a satisfied smile. "There you are, old friend." Commander Vextar was running toward the detention level when the ship-wide communication system crackled to life. Diana's voice, somehow accessing their secure channels, echoed through every corridor. "Emperor Kravik, you should have heeded my warning. The pendant you tried to destroy is much more than wood. It is a focus, a key to power your scientists cannot comprehend." In the throne room, the Emperor roared in fury. "Find her. Secure all levels." Diana walked calmly through the corridors, Zithian guards falling unconscious as she passed. She placed the pendant around her neck, and her appearance began to change. Her diplomatic uniform seemed to shift and flow, transforming into what appeared to be ancient robes, dark as night, and covered with symbols that hurt the eyes if viewed too long. The air around her crackled with energy. When she reached the throne room, the doors were sealed and guarded by the Emperor's elite warriors. Diana didn't break stride. "Last chance," she announced. "Return to your territory. Leave Earth and its colonies in peace. This is a diplomatic offering." The guards raised their weapons. Diana sighed. "So be it." She touched the pendant, and the massive doors tore from their moorings, crumpling like paper. The guards were thrown aside, unhurt but stunned. Inside the throne room, Emperor Kravaxol stood before his throne, surrounded by guards and advisors. His eyes widened at the sight of Diana, or what had been Diana. "What manner of deception is this?" he demanded. "No deception," Diana replied, her voice resonating with power. "Merely the truth you refuse to accept. Humans are more than we appear." She raised her hand, and all weapons in the room disintegrated into dust. "Impossible," the Emperor whispered. "Our intelligence was incomplete," Diana finished for him. "For thousands of years, certain humans have served as guardians, keepers of powers your science cannot explain. We remain hidden, stepping forward only when necessary." "What are you?" Vextar asked, having entered behind her. Diana turned slightly. "In my homeland, they called us Baba Yaga, witches who protected the balance. The pendant is merely a focus for abilities that have always existed within certain bloodlines. My diplomatic career was genuine. I prefer words to demonstrations like this." The Emperor, recovering his composure, straightened to his full height. "Whatever trickery this is, you are still one against an empire." Diana smiled. "Am I?" Throughout the ship, the pendant's influence spread. Weapon systems went offline. Engines powered down. The invasion fleet, receiving no commands, held position. "Your Majesty," an officer reported urgently, "we're detecting energy surges on all Earth colonies we've occupied. Our forces they're retreating." "Impossible," the Emperor roared. "I am not the only guardian," Diana explained calmly. "We sensed your intentions months ago. My mission was diplomatic, a genuine offer of peace. Your rejection activated our defensive protocols." She approached the throne, and none dared intervene. "Now, Emperor Kravaxol, shall we discuss terms? Your empire will withdraw from Earth space immediately. You will release all human prisoners. You will sign a non-aggression pact that will last 100 years. In return, you keep your empire and your pride." "And if I refuse?" the Emperor asked, his voice deadly quiet. Diana's eyes seemed to glow from within. "Then you will learn why so many would-be conquerors of Earth are merely footnotes in our history books." For a long moment, silence filled the massive chamber. Then, slowly, deliberately, Emperor Kravaxol sank back onto his throne. "Commander Vexter," he said, not taking his eyes from Diana, "prepare the diplomatic chambers. It seems we have negotiations to conclude." Diana's appearance gradually returned to normal, though the pendant continued to glow softly against her uniform. 3 days later, Diana's diplomatic shuttle departed the Zithian flagship, carrying a signed treaty that would ensure peace between their civilizations. As the small vessel pulled away, Commander Vextar watched from the observation deck. "I still don't understand," he said to the Emperor who stood beside him. "How could our intelligence be so wrong?" Emperor Kravaxol's eyes remained fixed on the departing shuttle. "It wasn't wrong, Commander. It was incomplete. We studied their technology, their weapons, their political structures. We never considered their myths might be based in truth. Could we have won, Your Majesty, if we had proceeded with the invasion?" The Emperor was silent for a long moment. "We will never know. And that, Commander, may be the most diplomatic outcome of all." As Diana's shuttle entered hyperspace, she removed the pendant and studied it thoughtfully. The wood was simple, ordinary, exactly what it appeared to be. She smiled to herself. Sometimes the greatest power was in what others believed, not what actually existed. She tucked the pendant away and prepared her report for Earth Command. The Zithians had been deceived not by magic, but by a carefully orchestrated plan. Synchronized power disruptions, targeted communications outages, and a lifetime of acting skills honed through diplomatic service. The myths of Baba Yaga were just that, myths. But they had served their purpose. Earth would be safe, not because of ancient magic, but because of human ingenuity, careful planning, and the power of a good story well told. After all, as Diana had learned long ago, sometimes the most effective weapon wasn't a sword or a gun, or even a witch's spell. It was making your opponent believe you had power they couldn't possibly understand.